What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday night. Welcome to Preacher on AMC Episode 2, titled C. I'm here with a fantastic panel for AFTERBUZZ TV. We're going to break down the whole episode for you. Hang out with us. We'll see you guys in just a second.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I'm gonna break my rusty cage.
Yeah, it's always Johnny Cash. It's crazy, right?
It works.
Or actually, wait, Time of the Preacher is not Johnny Cash. I take it back.
It's always Johnny Cash.
It's always
just
Johnny
a life
Cash.
motto.
That's the motto for the show. Guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to Sunday night. This is Preacher, Season 1 on AMC. This is the second episode, titled C. We're going to be breaking down the whole episode. I'm your host, Ben Bateman, joined with two lovely ladies over here.
Yeah.
Legitimate Preacher comic book fans, for the record.
Hi guys, I'm Roxy Striar.
Hey guys, I'm Lacretia Lyon, filling in for MR Dave Child.
And we do
very similar looks you guys have.
Exactly. Yeah. Separated at birth.
But you've got to be way, like sillier and creepier if you want to like get in on his level. You know, he does like weird expressions.
If you want to be Dave, you have to sit next to Ben, and when Ben's introing it, you have to do the double thumbs up.
Yeah, and always like Dave always dances on the other shows we do.
Yeah, right.
I'll have to dance.
That's true. Very true.
Frank Moran is actually finishing up the episode in the other room, so he's going to probably join us halfway through the episode. We hope. So that is the fourth panel member tonight. We are on Twitter, guys. Each of us are on Twitter. I'm Ben Bateman Media.
I'm at Roxy Striar.
And I'm at LACRETIALYON.
So share your thoughts with us on the episode if you want to argue with us, if you want to let us know things we missed or things that you thought were awesome about the episode. Also, of course, AFTERBUZZ TV is on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all of those things. If you guys give us a review or rating on iTunes, it really helps us stay high in the standings, and we have to keep the lights on so we can provide free content. We're going to continue to provide free content, and it helps to do it if we have a rating or a review, preferably 5 stars.
And I made an executive decision that if you guys write us a review on iTunes, we'll read some of our favorite ones. And also, we're live in the chat right now on YouTube, so if you join us Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific time, you can actually chat with us live and we'll read some of your comments out loud.
Yep, and you guys left tons of comments on the first episode on YouTube, so we read all of them, and yeah, we're fully aware of what's going on. So we'll be in the chat over here. The ladies will be womaning the chat.
Teamwork.
Yes.
You left me hanging for way too long there. It's really embarrassing.
I get distracted. They're talking hockey in the chat.
You like them better than us. I get it.
So the show is winding into form here. It's a little slow, I think. There's a lot of stories they're trying to throw at us all at once, I feel like. And that's not even just from a comic book point of view. That's literally just from it just feels like they're trying to do a whole lot all at once. And I can't really figure out what the narrative's going to be yet. What do you guys think?
It is a little confusing, honestly, and I don't know whether that's because I have an idea of where I want the story to go or where I think the story is going, or whether it's because they're holding back all this information on purpose, whether they are catering to comic book fans or not. I think that there are some frivolous characters right now. I think that there are some plot lines that I could hold off on a little bit. In general, though, there are some excellent things, decisions they've made that I'm really excited to get into tonight.
Yeah, to me, this episode, it almost seemed like short, but they're trying too many things at once. So we're trying to just figure out where they're going, especially those of us who've read the comics. We're like, okay, they're starting this, they're starting that. Where are we going? But I did love that they really amped up the pop culture, which is a huge staple in the comics, as well as, Evan Goldberg and Seth Rogen's, other movies. So
definitely,
yeah.
and I mean, they have to update it, of course, because it's it's so much later. What's really interesting about this show is that we're in an era now where if you adapt a comic book, a popular comic book, to television or a film, there's an expectation from the community, because there have been successful ones done, that this has to be done with ultimate respect to the source material. It's not the sort of thing where a book like Preacher is like, oh, we'll just take Preacher and do what we want with it, we'll change the story. Like, this is going to have to be pretty accurate or the fans will hate it. So what I think is really interesting is it's been 15 years, and this is a book that was hailed as one of the greatest comic books of all time during the time it was being published. I mean, Garth Ennis won an Eisner for Best Writer of the Year. That's like winning a comic book writing Oscar in 1999. That's halfway through the run. So, like, this is like a classic work. So what we're seeing is they're changing things up a little bit right now. They're giving us kind of a different approach on how to start the story. I think we all know it's going to get there. It's actually going to go on the journey that anybody who's ever read this book or even read about this book knows it's going to get to. It just seems to be fascinated with taking a bit of extra time to get started. My concern is I hope that the audience doesn't know the source material doesn't lose interest, because it is a little slow.
Something I was really bummed out about is the fact that I heard a lot of hate on the first episode, and I don't really get where that's coming from. yes, it might be a little slow. Yes, the characters haven't fully developed to where you eventually know that they will be or want them to be. But I think that there was nothing to hate on. I think they did a really great job, and this might be a slow burn. A lot of television these days are a slow burn.
Yep.
That's kind of the way it works, especially in the network we're on. We know that this network does that all of the time. So I feel like, in Preacher we trust. Give a little bit of faith and time to something that will really grow to be amazing.
Yes, pun intended with the faith line, right? And then, yeah, it's like AMC. You've watched Breaking Bad or Walking Dead from the beginning. They didn't start off like that either. It's just everything's kind of slow. This is a very character-focused network.
Or their slowest one I Mad Men.
Yeah.
This show is, I will almost 100% guarantee this show will be renewed for a second season, unless it already was and I missed it. I don't think it has yet, though. But this will be renewed for a second season, and this will, by the end of the first season, completely pick up, and the second season will be insane. And it's just, I think people will catch up after the first season aired, and I think when the second one's coming out, all of the reviews will say this was great. IMDb, it's got an 8.8. So
I don't think you have to wait that long. I think next episode, people are going to get something that really wows them. I think that the creators are smart enough that they know, all right, first, second episode, we're really getting into this. Third one, we got to knock people out, knock it out of the park. So yeah.
So let's start off where the episode started off with a character that was brand new, somebody we did not see in the first episode, a flashback to 1881, to a gentleman with a quiet, soft-spoken gentleman who only had one word to say. His reference to "Is this paradise?" and "It is not," is what he said.
You say it ain't.
It ain't. That's a preacher. It ain't.
It ain't.
And he's a famous character in the story. We have no idea who he is in the story on television yet. So we didn't get much. He didn't say much, but I liked it. What did you guys think?
Yeah, they made it very clear that he didn't say much. If you didn't pick up that he wasn't saying much, they over and over again repeated that he wasn't saying much. This was one of those storylines where I was like, ooh, interesting choice to include this right here, right now, and not go back to it at any point throughout the episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice as well. It's like we open up with that, but yet we literally only have one more scene that references it towards the end. And it's like, really?
That has to be a nod to the comic book readers, like, hey, by the way,
this is happening.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Well, from a like, without giving any plot away, a point of view, the comic book came out as like 70 issues or so, something like that, over like 6 years. And there was 2 miniseries that were released. Both of them were backstories. There were 4 issues each on 2 characters. And that what we saw is part of one of those. So it's not part of the normal run. It's backstory, which is, I think, why they didn't go back to it. They'll go back to it later, I'm fairly certain. But it doesn't. There's not much to make of it yet. Like, I don't know. It didn't. Do you guys feel like it foreshadowed anything, or actually the only connection was he's in Ratwater. Ratwater whiskey is the whiskey they drink.
Right.
Welcome to Ratwater.
And I did think it had a different tone than the rest of the episode that I think is good to introduce. So is it foreshadowing anything? Only the fact that we are going back, that we already had Cassidy today say that he's 119 years old.
Yep.
And now we went back to 1881, so we are playing around with the timeline a little bit. That's about it. Yeah.
But I should just remind to point out, we will not elaborate on any of the comic book tie-in backstory stuff until later in the episode. We'll do a spoiler alert during predictions. Only loose references. We don't intend to spoil anything for anybody. So just a heads up if you're watching. If we do say spoiler, turn it off if you don't want to know. But yeah, they were playing around with the time thing. So I think what you guys said is holding a lot of information back. They're definitely doing that. They're definitely tempting us into thinking things. And that is a very interesting, like, sort of seat to have, right? Where you're watching and you're like, well, 1881, 119 years. Yeah, like, you could go there.
Yeah, people like a tease, but nobody likes to be teased that much. So, play around with us a little bit, but then give us what we want.
Yeah, it's burlesque. You gotta take it off at the end.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah. Let's see a little nip for now, but then we need the whole thing soon.
So speaking of Cassidy, let's start off with his relationship with Emily. Rox, before we started the episode, you said that Emily is kind of not really doing it for you.
Well, not before I watched it, because the first episode I didn't have a problem, but before we started our after show, she's just taking up screen time for me right now.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because she might end up being a great character, but as of now, Tulip is just so interesting.
Yeah.
And Tulip's interactions with every single person is interesting, and Emily's whiny.
Yeah.
And that's a character choice, obviously. That's something that is being directed, and she's decided, like, all right, this is who I am. I'm kind of like, a little bit of a buzzkill.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't want Preacher to be a buzzkill.
Yeah.
Because I'm all in and I'm excited about it. So every time she's on screen, I'm like, oh, what's she gonna complain about? Cassidy.
Yeah.
All right, like.
Well, Jesse says boring is not the worst thing someone can be, Cassidy. she's kind of boring.
And he says, I think you're wrong.
Yeah. So maybe he's okay with her. The thing is, for my money, watching this, it's just like there is zero doubt in my mind that Tulip and Jesse are not like that's obviously brewing. So Emily is just like, why is this even happening right now? It's like you're just setting this up to be taken down. That's the way it feels like.
Well, and to me, growing up in Texas and having to go to church in a place like that, Emily is a character that I've seen in real life. So to me, it's just like her existence doesn't bother me because it makes sense. But yeah, we all know that Tulip and Jesse is what's setting up. Like, I thought that they kind of tried a little bit with Emily and Cassidy because, there's a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah, right,
and her
right.
irritation with him is like, they might go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she made the casserole.
Yeah.
Yeah, she made honestly, I kind of felt bad for her, too. And I didn't even want to spend a minute feeling bad for her. It's like, she's so clearly in love with Preacher.
Yeah.
She's just in love with him. So she makes him this casserole.
Yeah.
Every time she comes in, he's passed out drunk. She's always waking him up and saving him. And so, how on earth, as an audience, are we supposed to root against her? Like,
Yeah.
she's a good girl. She's a really good girl. She's the least exciting person on screen.
Yeah.
So, I don't want her there. But I feel bad as a human being for feeling that way.
I tweeted about another character, about Arseface, who Cassidy meets in the church. I tweeted the baptism of Arseface, solid gold. And Ian Coletti, who plays Arseface, just liked my tweet.
Oh.
Just as we sit here.
Golfers clap.
Unless it's a fan account. I don't know. I didn't check.
So you could completely be lying.
Because you're completely wrong. But anyway, so Cassidy has his interaction with Emily, and Cassidy is my favorite character to watch right now.
Me too.
He's very clearly the best cast. There was one shot in particular tonight when he's sitting, he takes his glasses off after Jesse's like, hey, you need to no trouble.
When the two of them are sitting leaning against the...
Yeah, right after he meets Arseface.
Yeah.
And I looked and I was like, wow, like you look exactly like the comic book. Like you just...
Not just the way he looks, but you can watch him thinking on screen. He's very talented.
Yeah.
He's really, really talented. He nails it. I could watch the Cassidy show all day.
I agree. Like, the thing is, as someone who loves Dominic Cooper, and, Frank will tell you guys, I love a man in the collar.
Yeah.
I'm really, like, Cassidy is it right now, though. It's like, I'm loving Dominic's portrayal as Jesse, but Cassidy is the man.
Yeah, but we haven't seen Dominic really Jesse out, so... I think you'll go back to your man in the collar eventually.
We're getting like just a tiny peep show of actually what he's gonna look like as Preacher. He's not there yet. We're barely getting teased.
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to him just being Jesse Custer. Like I get it. I get what we're doing, but like.
I mean, we got a little bit of it tonight, like the bath
at the end,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's the weird thing. This is like for the Jesse thing, and I'm jumping around, but there's no point in time, ever, in the source material, that you ever see this version of Jesse. He never exists.
Yeah, but there's no time in the source material that we see this relationship between Jesse and Cassidy.
Agreed. What's weird about it is like that's why it feels uncomfortable. That version of Jesse Custer, he's always he's just been that Texas fucking like.
It's been referenced a little bit though.
That he used to be that guy, the Texas guy.
Yeah. The timeline's different. They're playing with us.
They're giving us something
bit.
that doesn't exist. Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
We want to be surprised a little bit. You don't want to know exactly what's happening.
Yeah. So Chastity and Jesse, they have this great relationship that's going, and they're you said already, their scenes together, definitely the best scenes in the show. Mm-hmm. Very entertaining. So Cassidy's drinking like we all thought like what is that? His blood or something? What's he drinking?
That's what I figured.
Right? He doesn't want Jesse. So, but it's so strong, it knocks Jesse out for like an entire day. What was it?
It was True Blood. What?
He said it was from the back of
rubbing alcohol and like.
I think it was probably a concoction of things, including some irony blood. But I'm not positive. The people watching this, so being a vampire, we hear him say tonight that he's a 119-year-old vampire from Dublin, who likes what was the food he
loves Chinese food.
Chinese food, yeah.
He was going over his Tinder profile.
We're meant to be together. But he says all this out loud. Obviously, he isn't believed by Preacher.
Yeah.
So maybe we're jumping the gun in talking about it being blood.
No, I didn't actually. I mean, it was clear, so I didn't really think by the end of it was. But like, that was like my thought when he's like, "Oh, don't drink this." But I'm just trying to figure out what the hell it was.
Yeah, because he said it was rubbing alcohol. Gasoline, I think, is what he said. I mean, I wish I had all the ingredients, because then I'd make it myself and tell you how it is.
On the show and see how we do here,
Right.
But if you guys know all the ingredients to Cassidy's drink, we'd love to hear it.
Mardova says, I thought it was some kind of demon juice.
Well, at first I thought it was holy water, so it was like a dig.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he's drinking holy water from those idiots that tried to kill him.
Really awesome.
But in any case, so he's in the church talking to Jesse. Jesse passes out, and then Jesse gets accosted by these after Cassidy takes his car and leaves to go do something.
Yeah.
Comes back wasted, and now Jesse is with these two guys, these mysterious figures, one of whom ate a tea bag at the end of the first episode. Their names listed on IMDb are Fior and DeBlanc.
Yeah.
We don't actually know who they are. They were in Africa in the first episode.
And they're claiming to be part of the government.
Yeah, but they're clearly not. There's clearly something weird going on. They bring in this trunk, and they take out like a what was it? Like some sort of music box, but like a manual music box, and DeBlanc sings a song to Jesse.
That scene was
so weird.
It seemed very out of place to me. Why is he singing? And then it didn't work. What didn't work? What are you singing? Why are you doing this?
So there's a coffee can on Jesse's chest, and he's singing something and like running music backwards, and they say it's here. And Jesse has the spirit inside him that we saw going in the first episode.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's what they're looking for. It seems like that's what they're looking for, and then that, I guess, the coffee can on his chest, like where they were trying to extract the spirit from him. That's what I picked up on.
Yeah, I'm like, it's so haggard the way they did it with a coffee can. I'm like, you have this fancy music box and you're singing, but then you have a coffee can. Like, you don't have some fancy urn to go with this.
Right.
You know, obvious, like, sort of, to me, it seemed to start the supernatural, which comes along.
Yeah.
Philip made a better makeshifft bazooka than they did whatever it is.
With coffee cans.
Yeah, with coffee
right,
cans.
Or
Maybe
with
that's
some
a running
kind of
theme.
can. Yeah. Anyway, so that doesn't work. Cassidy comes back, gets into a massive fight, extreme gratuitous violence, a chainsaw fight. Jesse sleeps through the whole thing. Cassidy seemingly kills both of them after taking a bullet, so we now know, we knew he was a vampire, but we now know Cassidy can quickly recover from getting shot and cut. He mutilated the guys, but they show back up again at the end of the episode. Confused. Color me confused.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been really strange to kill off these two characters that we introduced that didn't do anything yet.
Yeah.
That would have been a weird move. That would have been killing just to kill. How it is that they're alive, yeah, of course, confusing. And what it is, how they're going to explain themselves, what it is they're here to do, I guess we're going to find out. But I would have been really surprised if they both ended up dead. Maybe they would have killed off one of them, but why would we have introduced these two characters?
Yeah, I agree. And when I talked to Fior at the premiere, he definitely like alluded to being in more. I think he's listed on IMDb in a bunch of episodes too.
All 10.
Yeah. So and I asked him like some questions, and he was like, "You'll have to wait to see." So when he was dying here in this episode, I was like, "I don't get this. He must be coming back. This doesn't make any sense." I was confused. As a comic book reader and as a TV watcher, neither one of them made sense to me.
Yeah, and to me, to like, not did they just get shot or something like poison where you can easily see people coming back from. They were hacked up with a chainsaw. Like, that's pretty cool to come back from that.
A couple things going on in the chat right now that I think are interesting. Going back to the coffee cans, Peter D says they sung it a lullaby to extract it, as you do for all demons have to sing lullabies.
Is that Peter D-E-E?
No.
Oh, it's not.
Mardova says, why would this is just one person in the chat, why would angels need a chainsaw though? Also says maybe they're clones or they can duplicate themselves.
Yeah.
So a lot of different theories and thoughts going on. They're
very serious, which is a different approach. It's a different approach from those characters before, from the book, which is weird, right? Mm-hmm. There's some humor in the book. There's no humor here so far. Maybe it's coming. I don't know.
It's all coming from Cassidy right now, and Tulip a little bit too.
So let's talk about Tulip a little bit. She's relentlessly going after Jesse.
I love her.
She's adorable. So she's adorable to me. Like I have two different notes on here, right? Early on, I wrote I love Tulip. Later, I wrote Tulip ... unsure. She's like, I like the whole confidence thing, like the confident sense of humor that they're giving her, because that's like, it's a different take. Like that there's an angle to her humor that's a different take, right? It's a humor that didn't exist in the book. It's like she had humor, but like there's a very specific sense of humor she has here. It works sometimes for me. Most of the time, a lot of the time, I'm like, you're just great. Like you're so funny. Like when she's getting fake baptized, I was just like loving it. But then later,
Thanks for making me wet.
yeah, thanks for getting me all wet, right?
Yeah.
But then later, when she's in the whorehouse, and she's like, she tells that story about like my grandfather and he killed the kids, and she's like, funny, right? It's like. Kind of like you're trying a little hard. That's the part of me where I'm like, you're trying a little hard.
Yeah, but how true is that to the comic? She's always trying so hard. It's like every time when I'm reading something, I'm like, Tulip, do less. But I also think that the version that they wrote of her is not a version that would be sustainable to watch on television. I think that there would be a lot of women up in arms about she should be a kick butt female lead. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. It's 2016. This is the Tulip we want to see. Right. This is a badass woman, and that's what we want on TV, especially in something like this where the guys get to be, cool. So why can't Tulip have this? And yeah, I loved that story, but yeah, I was like, that's dark, man. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
So I agree with you guys. I don't mean that they're changing her. Like, I think that she should be more meek or anything like that, because I agree with you. I don't think that would work. And I also think that there's this element to Steve Dillon's art, which is that all of the women kind of look like men. Like he kind of, like in my opinion, like he draws a lot of his faces look very, very similar. It's not like the women look like actually that they're not female. They all look very like strong. They all have like strong jaws. It's just sort of like the way that he drew that book. So I like that they made the decision to change her, to make her darker skin, to give her kind of a different personality and change her from the comic. I think that's actually a good decision. So I'm into the character. It's just that sometimes she's trying a little hard, but also I can see to that character with her whole affect. That's in the character.
Tulip is sometimes annoying.
Exactly.
Like sometimes you're like, oh, Tulip. And that's how I felt tonight a couple of times. Like, oh, Tulip, you're so weird, but I love you.
Yeah, fully.
I think she's doing a really good job.
Did you guys like when she lured Jesse with the baby seat in the street and then tased him and chained him up? I loved it.
Yeah, I love the bounty hunter helmet. I was like, oh yeah, the Princess Leia bounty hunter helmet. They're kinky.
The role play?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent.
And definitely, I know Dave would want us to mention that is talking about the role playing and all the things to come on this show.
The S&M stuff? Yeah, the weird sex stuff on this show?
Yeah, Dave's all about it.
He's all about it.
I want everybody to know that S&M is okay.
Yeah, and especially I'd like to see Dominic do it, so, yeah.
Yeah.
But only when he's got the collar.
Yeah.
He's
got to keep that part on.
He's like one of your favorites. You're a big fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved him as Howard Stark, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Tulip, so I think that pretty much covers as far as like what's going on with her thus far. She did reveal a little information to Jesse about this map and Danny going to Houston, some foreshadowing for some stuff that I think will come that we will touch on, I think a little more in predictions because it relates to, I think, stuff we already know as comic book readers.
Yeah, but I will say that I have no idea who this Danny is.
I agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even think of the name in the comics. I'm like, who is Danny? Who's she talking to?
The Queen of Dragons.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, dead on. Yeah, what if she just like Daenerys Targaryen just shows up, just like head explode? What?
Yeah.
How's
Danny,
this happening?
my friend Danny died.
Yeah. Little gobshites. I had that written down. It's good. It's a Cassidy quote. All right, let's talk a bit about the Odin Quinn Cannon boys. So we meet Jackie Earle Haley, gigantic actor to show up in this show. Just
Rorschach.
Like just a huge name character actor to have like a minute and a half of screen time.
Yeah.
But he was billed as Odin Quinn Cannon. So there is another town that exists in this world, Salvation, Texas. It's another small Texas town. It happens much later in the story, which I think it's possible we're just seeing. They're just setting us up, possibly. But all Donnie and all those guys work at his plant.
Do you mean setting us up for something way down the line?
Maybe. I mean, in the comic book, like that's a story we get much, much later. We don't meet Odin Quinn until way later. But it doesn't really make a difference. I think in the story, like for storytelling purposes, it actually doesn't. Introducing him now doesn't change anything because it's a separate story. Like it happens much, much later. It's like sort of almost like a compartmentalized piece of the story. But it is interesting that we're meeting people in Jesse's town now. So like guys like Donnie and these guys that are going to what was the name of the whorehouse? Toadvine?
Yeah, Toadvine whorehouse. And I was like, the best little whorehouse in Texas. Yeah. And Mardova says when they went to the whorehouse, they were expecting the titty twister from Dusk Till Dawn. I was like, yeah, that would have been funny.
So Odin is like negotiating the purchase of this house to presumably build more meatpacking and it was obsessed with butchering. He's like had a weird fetish thing going on.
Yeah.
Something was happening inside his head.
Ooh, a butcher fetish? Weird.
Something strange.
Yeah, worse than a priest fetish, I guess.
S&M stuff, you know. Back to Dave. He's got his whole thing going on. They give presumably a suitcase full of cash that Donnie is struggling to open because he's crippled and he's upset about that. And then they buy the house and proceed to tear it down immediately.
Yeah.
Just kind of like they're setting up some real archetypal stuff. These are bad guys.
Well, especially when we see what happens in the car after with Donnie.
Yeah, these are bad guys, and Jesse's a good guy. There's way too many bad guys. You gotta be one of the good ones.
But it's interesting, though, because we hear Jesse, even in tonight's episode, say exactly that again. Be one of the good guys, talk.
Yeah.
But we also hear Tulip continuously say, you're a bad guy, you're a bad guy, you're one of the bad guys. I know who you are, you're a bad guy. So I do think that it is... even though we think it's black and white, there is a lot more gray to it. So
Right.
I think they're doing a pretty good job of that. We know that these guys definitely are bad. Where does Jesse lie? Where does Tulip lie? Where does Cassidy lie? Did he just kill these two people? Like, what exactly? Who is what?
And that's that's reflective of the book. That's not new. That's totally how it all works. They definitely give you that sort of the sort of classic good and bad stuff. But they also do throw in the fact that all of your main characters definitely have some darkness and have they're not all squeaky clean. You find out more and more as we go, and we will find out more and more as we go. So we didn't get a whole lot as far as that group of guys, but it's clear that's a rowdy pack of dudes that live in town, or at least live close to town, and they will cause problems, as Donnie has already caused problems, as Jesse is discovering himself. So now let's talk a bit about Jesse and sort of his Word of God stuff. So
It's my favorite stuff we have going on.
the Word of God stuff.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Linus and Arseface and also
Tracy.
and also Tracy. You wrote it on my sheet, but I have it written here just for the record. I wrote it myself.
Well, in all fairness, I saw you looking for what part to write it, so I just wrote it down.
Yeah.
On a different part, but I wrote it before you did.
It's very nice of you, but I wanted to let you know that it's written on my paper.
Well, now it's written twice because you wrote it after I did.
Tracy.
Saying.
Written. Okay.
I have Tracy written on my paper also, and Lacretia has it in her Steel Trap brain.
Yep. All right, guys, moving on. So we have Tracy, we have Linus, we have Arseface. Oh, Ted.
I wrote down TED Talk.
Yeah.
We talked about Ted. I love Ted from last week. I miss Ted. Ted tore his heart out for us, and nobody could even remember Ted's name. And we mentioned him in the episode tonight. Ted deserved a good send-off.
He did.
Rest in peace, Ted.
It's a startling way to end the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very,
definitely.
very gory.
Definitely.
They're getting away with a lot of gore on this show. But
Yeah.
I'm liking it.
That's pretty standard with
It's
cable
going
now.
to get so much gorier, I think.
So much gory. I totally agree.
This is like easing us into it.
Fully. So let's go through quickly the various iterations of this Word of God stuff.
Yep.
So starting with Arseface, the baptism happens. He expected to be able to hear God, doesn't. Said he did. Came to Jesse later and admitted that he heard nothing. Jesse finds himself frustrated with him, with Eugene, but you get the feeling as he is now testing out his Word of God thing. That's maybe a place he's going to test it out later. It seems like a relationship that it would maybe come into play. Next, you have Tracy, who is a girl who a piece of the top of her head is missing. She wears a wig. Her mom puts on makeup. She's in a coma. She's being, presumably in a coma, it seems that way, or is non-responsive. Her mom is taking care of her. Something awful happened. We don't know what, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder if it's connected to the line when Eugene and Sheriff Root are leaving and the guys say murder, and he turns around and says, "Who said that?" And then Eugene says, "No, let's go," because that's a question mark.
Well, which one of the two of them do you think they were talking to when they said murderer?
I was thinking Eugene and that may be why he shot himself.
Right.
It could have been like he shot himself, the bullet went through and hit her.
Oh, I don't think so. I think maybe he killed somebody on accident and then tried to take his own life, kind of thing.
Yeah, over guilt. That's what I was thinking.
Because
definitely.
And that would make sense considering it's the different time. So the way that he does it, the reason he does it originally from the comic books wouldn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah, but
It's
they might try to
1991.
adapt that into. I mean, there's been a lot of cases of what happened in the comic.
Yeah, right.
Not just him.
Yeah, that's fair. So, and then the third is we have Linus, who is sort of he was this week's Donnie. He was this week's preacher punching bag. Pretty much admitting to having urges to be a pedophile, bus driver, really gross, just one of those things where The way this whole thing played out, I wasn't that pleased with. I didn't really like. I liked seeing Jesse be decisive, but I kind of was like, I don't know.
The touch and go-ness of his powers working and not working, which I know is true sometimes to the comics too, but when he says you're gonna have to stop sinning, I thought that was the end of the Linus stuff. But
Right.
then we get back to Linus, and I was glad that we did because that scene was awesome in the bathroom.
Right.
But it was a little weird that he had to, like, you don't remember her, you don't remember her, you don't know her, like, you know,
Yeah.
and had to repeat himself. How does this work? How does it all work?
Also, how did he know that time that it worked for him? You know, the previous times when he tried to use the word of God, he wasn't aware that it worked.
Because if you said that to somebody and they claimed that they didn't know the person anymore, you would be like, shut up, you're lying.
No, he said it and then like repulsed back.
Because it's like the vibration.
He felt it.
Yeah, I think he felt it. And that was honestly one of my favorite scenes in the episode because I love
too.
how long it took him to just start rolling up his sleeves, taking his jacket off. It's like when girls take off their earrings. You know stuff's happening right now.
Right.
And like that just, the little details in that scene I liked. And then, yeah, I feel like, you know, it was almost like a Beetlejuice. He was repeating it 3 times to make sure it was working. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also one of those weird things though where so what happened right there is different than almost anything you ever get in the comic. The comic has this tone which is like, if somebody's a pedophile or it has the urges to be a pedophile, it's like the lowest of the low, scum of the earth. That's like the kind of person Jesse kills.
Yeah.
He doesn't use the word of God to change people. He uses the word of God to like get people to stop shooting at him, or like people who are like trying to, and he's like run in the other direction for 100 miles or
I think
something.
that's why they made him not. I mean, he has pedophile thoughts, but he didn't actually act on any of them.
Yeah, but they wrote him to be so like. It wasn't like he had pedophile thoughts and like he was a likable character who had a flaw. He was like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
No, I completely
They made
agree
him
with
awful.
you. I 100% agree with you. And in the comics, Jesse would have killed him, and people were talking about that a lot in the chat earlier.
Yeah.
But I think that's why they made that little slight change for us to be able to justify a little bit. Like, okay, you know, you can't charge somebody on something they didn't do.
Yeah.
So, it was a little weird, though, because Jesse totally would have killed him. But at least he went after him.
Right.
Like, when they're sitting in the church and the guy's talking to him, Jesse's like, yeah, you know you can't do that. I was like, what?
Well,
Like,
because
that's what we get?
Yeah, that's it.
When he was running the water, I thought he was going to say, kill yourself. That's what I thought was happening. I thought he was going to give him a razor and say, open your veins, essentially, and die in the bathtub.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was going to be darker than basically just the waterboarding. I was like, is he just going to, you know, frame him or...
I don't think he knew at that point that
Yeah.
he could say kill yourself and the guy would kill himself.
Right, true. Yeah, yeah. So now he kind of knows, which is why he ends up at Tracy's bed and says, open your eyes. And that's what we're left with.
Right.
But in the scenes from next week's episode that we saw, she does not appear to have her eyes open.
I don't necessarily agree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. We just saw
put her in a weird corner with the mom standing there, and
they moved her body. So
moved her body. So I think maybe she did. Although if Jesse's gonna have to be very careful with his learns. Give her your heart. Obviously, poor choice of words. Open your eyes.
Yeah.
But I think that's what he said. Open your heart. Actually, open your eyes.
Open your heart. Be brave. Tell her how you.
Right.
Be brave. Tell her to open
what
your
did
heart.
open your heart mean?
Yeah.
We saw that. What does open your eyes mean?
So maybe her eyes open and nothing happens.
And nothing, you know.
Yeah, right.
They're open but dead there.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have to be more specific next time.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was that so she's got like it looked like she had taken a bullet over the top of her head, right? And it looked like it got in some of her brain maybe, and that's why she was in a coma or non-responsive. There's a dark side to this whole town. You get that there's a lot of bad stuff going on. There's a lot of bad dudes in the town, and it seems to be sort of breaking Preacher, which is in the very first issue of the book. Like that's you see the flashback to like him breaking essentially, which is why we keep saying that that's not something you get in the comic because it starts basically right when he's broken. But I'm wondering if that thing that happened to her is going to be revealed to us as like one of these bad guys did that, or like. Do you know what I mean? I'm wondering if that's the kind of thing, like they're gonna spend a couple episodes here setting up planting all these seeds.
With Tracy, you mean?
Yeah, to
I
see
think
who all the bad dudes are.
I think you were more on the mark with the Arseface stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think so. I think there's got to be maybe some sort of connection there.
Yeah, because to me, there had to be a reason why they had that scene where murder, that's the thing. As I was like, and these are connected, so.
And why Jesse's kind of harsh with Arseface at sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, he maybe did something that wasn't so great, even if it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah. Because to me, it's like just trying to kill himself. Like, I don't think he'd be that harsh. While it is mortal sin in the eyes of a preacher, just that couldn't be that bad. So there had to be something that caused that.
Right.
That would be one of the issues.
And one of the most important things I think that took place in this episode was when Jesse opened up to Tracy's mom, Mrs. Loach, about talking about pain. In that moment, you know that Jesse's been through the ringer. You don't know what's happened, but you see that he's gone through it. So I don't think he would be somebody who's as judgmental of somebody trying to commit suicide, but maybe a murderer.
Yeah, I get that. So let's see. We got Tulip, Quincan. What else are we missing? Word of God. I think that covers most of the episode, right? Like, I don't think we're forgetting anything super, super important. Cassidy buries the bodies of these guys, of DeBlanc and Fior, in this box. He steals wine.
Yeah, and he couldn't go out. And it was weird, though, because when we woke up Jesse, Cassidy was gone when Emily came and woke up Jesse, but it was still daytime.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, when did he leave? We saw him not be able to leave.
Yeah.
Two things.
Did I miss something there?
Emily makes reference to Tulip. That's the first interaction that she's had. Who was that, she says, and then walks away. So they've started that, which was fun, because it's going to break, and she's going to steal him. And the second thing would be that DeBlanc and Fior went after Jesse, and they had their whole weird song thing. Cassidy thought they were there to kill him.
Yeah.
Is there any reason to believe, as an audience member, if you don't know the backstory, and to be fair, we have no idea what direction they're going to take this. They could take it in any direction
that
they want.
Were there for Cassidy?
Yeah,
Zero, because they shot him and killed him and then kept going on with Jesse.
Okay.
Yeah,
If they were looking for Cassidy and they were like using Jesse to lure him out, then they would have, after they shot and killed him, they would have left Jesse. Who cares?
Right.
And also, the pilot, we saw them watching and what they're talking about. They couldn't care less about Cassidy. But it is funny that he's been chased for so long that anybody who's anywhere causing trouble, we see Jesse say, "Don't cause any more trouble." Jesse's actually the one that's at the center of the trouble. It's not Cassidy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Should we get into predictions?
Yeah.
Let's get into a regular quick predictions, and then we'll do a spoiler predictions. So based on the show, and then based on the comic.
Now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
And we may get Frank. We may get Frank for spoiler predictions, just maybe. Okay. I think that my first prediction will be that the murderer and the girl missing the piece of her head are connected, and we will find out next episode.
Could it possibly be Root or definitely Arseface?
I think it has to be Arseface. I just don't think it could be Sheriff Root, because, like, if Sheriff Root...
I agree.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it might not be her. It might have been her and someone. Somebody might be dead, and she might have caught a bullet as well.
Yeah, it could all be like, or a car accident, just something.
I didn't think that she had, it looked like a bullet to me in her.
Really?
No.
Looked like she was going to be hit or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I was thinking a drunk driving accident just because of where it's based, and that's just such a big hot button issue in the way that her head was. I was thinking more along the lines of something like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you guys got?
Something indented there. Any predictions?
Well, I'm kind of hoping that Danny turns out to be Danny McBride, just, based on Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's other works, and he's one of my favorites. That would be
best
hilarious.
kept secret ever.
Yeah.
It would be amazing if it was just Danny McBride in the show, and it's the actor Danny McBride playing Danny McBride. Like, they're not averse to doing something like that. Like, totally, like, this is the end style.
Oh, yeah.
And he just exists in this world.
Yeah, but do you think they would do that in Preacher? I think it would be an awesome move, but I don't know if they have the confidence to bring that in this comic book.
Yeah, I don't think
be...
he'd being the actor Danny McBride, but yeah, just give him the same sort of Danny, but something else like Danny Powers or.
I think they could totally make it Danny McBride an actor, and I think they could just make the cameo, and he could just be somebody who exists and is just in the comics. Sometimes like that's the kind of change where I'm like, if you guys want to update this and make this like funny and fun in a different way, I could totally get on board with that, but I don't think it'll happen. But that's a great prediction.
Yes.
That would be freaking awesome.
I was like, we need him. He should be in every show.
Oh my god! Do you think this season?
Yeah, anything.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
god, I'm really excited about that. You got to get in the writer's ears.
I
and
know.
just
It's
make
like,
that
yeah,
happen.
yeah. Danny McBride, please.
That outfit that we saw Cassidy wearing
Yeah.
to try to avoid the sun.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's got to catch on to what's
Yeah,
going
like,
on.
Yeah,
what are
right.
you doing?
At some point very soon, Jesse is going to find out what's going on with Cassidy.
Yeah.
Even though Cassidy point blank said,
I'm a vampire from Dublin who's 119 years old.
yeah, who likes
Yeah.
Chinese food.
Yeah.
All of those things.
Yeah,
are
he
true.
went all over his Tinder profile, and he hates The Big Lebowski, which that was disappointing.
Yeah, it's a shite film. I like that.
Yeah, he keeps saying shite, and I love it.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely somebody's going to find out. Maybe it's even Tulip that finds out first and kind of sells him out or something. The worst case scenario would be if Emily finds out.
Yes, that would be terrible.
And also, the worst case is probably usually what happens. So
Yeah, it's
maybe
true.
she sees him sucking on some blood.
Fuel to the fire. So let's go into spoiler mode.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler mode.
Spoiler alert!
So for anybody watching who does not understand what's going on right now, we are 100% going to make specific references to the comic book right now that are things in the show that we know have happened or will happen or we suspect will happen because of things we actually know. If you don't want to know that, thanks for watching. I'm Ben Bateman. This is Roxy Striar. We have
Yeah.
Lacretia Lyon. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. But in the meantime, if you do want to hear the spoilers, this is where it gets really, really good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Do you like that voice? This is where it gets really, really good.
And Frank. I need Frank. I want his predictions.
I know, because Frank is like a comic book encyclopedia.
I know.
Yeah.
He's the
probably
frickin'
he's probably standing outside the door being like, I don't know, it's kind of late, maybe I shouldn't go in. He's just standing there right now.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Okay, well maybe we'll get Frank for like 2 minutes. We'll get Frank for like 2 minutes. All right, so predictions that have to do, so things that Easter eggs in this episode. First of all, Tulip saying she's going to go to Houston. She's going to go to Houston. Jesse's going to follow. That's where they're going to run into Jody, and that's going to start the Until the End of the World storyline. So in the comic book,
You think in season 1?
absolutely, yeah. They're setting it up. Who taught you to fight like that?
Yeah.
Dark music. That's Jody who taught him to fight like that.
yeah.
It's 100% going there. I know for a fact it's going there because I talked to the writer who wrote those episodes at the premiere, and she told me that she wrote those episodes.
So we've
There he
casted
is.
Jody.
Apparently, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think they've shot the whole first season already. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going there, in my opinion. That
Yes. Break the band.
so we're officially in spoiler prediction right now.
Love it.
So we can reference the comic. So what I was saying was that I believe when Tulip references meeting Danny in Houston, because in the comic book that's where Jesse disappears as Houston, and then that's again where he goes through Houston. That's where Jody finds him and starts the Until the End of the World storyline.
Yes.
I believe that Tulip will go there. Jesse will follow. They'll find him, and then that's where it'll go, and like they'll start that whole thing with Grandma and all that. That's what I think is gonna happen.
I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's your
Because
head at?
they made
I
reference
know.
to Jody as well.
No, it's like I'm just taking everything they've done with Tulip. This,
Yeah.
just this last episode where I just feel like much like at the beginning of the issues of the series that
Yeah.
Jesse was more the kind of like subtly kind of pursuing with Tulip.
Yeah.
And you feel like this way is kind of flipped. We feel like Tulip is one that's just constantly kind of pursuing Jesse.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like to change the dynamic of that.
Yeah, it's fun. Definitely fun.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited to get your little last minute thoughts.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And also we have to talk about Saint of All Killers.
Oh right.
No.
So yeah. So this is what I was saying. So the reason they gave us that bit at the beginning, and that's the miniseries, the Saint of All Killers backstory, which is that 4-issue thing.
Yes.
With the different artists, which I was actually never the biggest fan of. But they're setting up. I like the story.
What, of the character? Or?
No, I love the story. I just hated the art change.
Was that with Steve Pugh? Was that?
I think it was Steve Pugh. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so they're setting that up. They're definitely going to elaborate more on that. They're gonna show us more of what happens. But
What, you think every week a little bit?
maybe, yeah, because they're setting up like, I mean, he's the ultimate badass in the world. He's essentially, he's essentially the devil's executioner who's unkillable. So they have to set up the stakes to make someone that evil and crazy and like terrifying. And I loved physically. I was so in. Like I thought he looked like the Saint to me. He didn't sneer. We didn't get to see him sneer yet, and his sneer is a big thing.
Yes.
Right.
I feel like once that beard comes off, then
Yeah.
maybe we're gonna see that. But I feel like we're like seeing the subtitles for this. It said like the woman that's talking to him was like, "Stay the horse."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
I was like, what's that mean exactly? All right.
Yeah. It's awesome. Any other little Easter eggs that jumped out at you guys this one that made you think about specific stuff?
No, not really.
Yeah, I think you covered it. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, those are the
Does
big
it
ones.
say it?
I guess we should make reference because we talked about this on the episode. So DeBlanc and Fior, we know exactly who they are. There's zero chance, but they changed something up because we never saw them die and come back to life in the book.
No, that's true.
Which is weird, but so essentially they're like the scientists from heaven. They're
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. We never saw them die, so we never had to see them come back in the books. But
Yeah. Well, we do
presumably
see-
angels would be able to.
We do see one of the, not Fior or DeBlanc, but it's the person that wakes the saint in the first issue or the second issue, gets shot through the head and dies.
Yeah.
So with that's totally different. But they're essentially, we talked about that whole scene with the music box,
Yes.
trying to extract Genesis. Like that's obviously what was going on. They just like don't know what they're dealing with yet. It's so weird though that they decided to take all of the humor from their characters and like so far throw it out the window.
I don't even never look at it really as humor, more as just like
Incompetence?
Incompetence.
Yeah.
Totally. Like the inability to do their job.
Yeah.
I guess that's the definition of incompetence. So I didn't even ever think they were really funny. They're just kind of like messed up all the time.
Well, to me, they were almost like the lone gunman in X-Files. Like, just like, the kind of quirky humor.
Right.
And I liked that about them in the comic books. And to me, it's just like they really amped up the supernatural in this episode. So I'm like, it's
Right.
obviously coming much sooner than I thought. Because a lot of times they'll drag it out like they did on Lucifer, Dave and I's other shows. But yeah.
So good,
yeah.
though. I love that
Yeah.
show.
So I've made reference to the interview with Tom Brook, the guy that plays Fior, and my question to him was, so you play one of the scientists from heaven, right? And he's like, yes, I do. And I was like, are you the one that does more blow or has sex with more hookers? And he's like, started cracking up, and he's like, you're just gonna have to watch the show, But so he sort of alluded to the fact, because I was like, are we gonna see you in the Paradise Inn, or what are we gonna get? And he was like, they did some stuff. He was kind of like, you're gonna see that stuff. So I think
hookers and blow.
I think we are going to see them get to that point, which I'm excited about, because that's like some of the funniest stuff about those two characters.
That moment with the gun, though. No. Do you want one or two towels? No. I was like, be a human being for a second. Like, adapt better. God.
Well, they take themselves like really seriously, which I think maybe that's what they're doing, is like these guys take themselves so seriously, and then they're going to realize that like this sucks.
Yeah.
We're on Earth. We can just like be dudes on Earth and like do drugs and like have sex with hookers. Like that's what's going to happen. I think so. Maybe that's what they're waiting for, is to give us that reveal, and that'll be the funny turn.
Sure, especially if
I would like that.
Cassidy ends up killing them
Yeah.
every single time. Like, why do we keep doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Any other little Easter eggs you want to throw in that you saw in this one? Jumped out at you?
Well, it's not really an Easter egg about the show, but certainly the bus driver.
Yeah.
Is a friend of a teacher of mine, Ptolemy Slocum, which is so
Really?
weird to see
Oh,
him.
wow.
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was like, all right, I played a pedophile. Great.
That's what you want to be known for,
Yes.
right?
Did you have a favorite scene or something that you loved about the episode in particular, or a favorite character?
Man, it's just that fight scene in the church with Cassidy was just great.
It's awesome.
With the saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to know. And it was just like that. Felt very Sam Raimi-esque, where you see
Yes.
with the severed arm and the chainsaw making
Yeah.
its way right towards Jesse. It was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I agree. I was totally into it.
Me too.
I think that wraps us up.
Yeah.
Do we want to share any thoughts from the chat?
They're pretty much saying exactly what we were. I was trying not to give too many spoilers throughout, so I hope I didn't ruin it with that angel thing early on, but everybody was talking about it here.
Right.
That's pretty much it. Mardova says Emily is already sort of catching on. I don't think so. I think Emily's completely in the dark about everything.
She's also only going to be in the show, I think, for a couple more episodes, because I think as soon as the journey starts, she's just gone. The whole town, that's the weird thing. I don't want to stay in this town like this for too long. I really want them to get on the road and get out of there and start the actual story. That's my one concern, is that if they spend too much time with this whole developing, we said this before, but like if they spend too much time developing this whole like premise that didn't exist in the comic book thing, like we want to give you more backstory to show you the lead up to him turning into the Jessica Esther we all know and love. Yeah. I think they're gonna lose viewers because it's a little slow, and it's I don't feel like we're getting to see these characters like as part of the narrative that we want yet. I have patience for it. I know we all have patience for it, but yeah.
Well, because it was interesting. Seth Rogen was saying like the message that Jesse's supposed to take and that it takes in the comic book is Jesse holds God accountable.
Yeah.
That's his big thing. Man from Texas, holding people accountable to what they say.
Yeah.
But he takes the wrong message. At least here at the premise of the show.
Yeah.
They're doing where he also takes the accountability as a message upon himself that he's got to be accountable.
Yeah,
to
he's
the
gotta be.
town. realizing that's the wrong message to be taking from this, and now you're supposed to be going out and being the Jesse Custer that we know from the comic.
Yeah, right.
So we're just waiting to get to that point. How long is that going to take?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking on Twitter right now to figure out how everybody felt about the episode in general.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of positive reviews.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Maria the Muggle. Oh my God, the show is just everywhere. I think they're going to be creepy, and then they start singing WTF Preacher, which is like kind of how I felt.
Nice.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're all in, so I'm super stoked if people want to watch the show and are loving it. It makes me really happy because all I want is to get into the second half of the season in season 2, like where you really get into the meat of the story. Like I wanted to pick up.
Wait, we're ready.
Yeah.
Episode 3. Meat.
Yeah, let's do it. Meat.
Yeah.
The Meat Lover Special, Episode 3, title.
So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys watching the show. Rate us a review, a rating on iTunes. Leave your comments below, and we will respond to them on YouTube. My name is Ben Bateman. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm Roxy Striar. You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon, and you can find me anywhere at LACRETIALYON, since there is only one.
I'm Frank. You can find me on Twitter and actually here for the whole show next week for sure.
At Happy Go Jackie.
At
Right?
Happy Go Jackie. That's
Happy
right.
Go Jackie.
Roxy's favorite Twitter handle of all time. Look at the love on her face.
And Dave Child. What's his Twitter?
MR Dave Child.
MR Dave Child.
Dave Childs. Excellent. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.